Hey, what's going on? So this is basically just going to be, this is real simple. This is me practicing. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start a series, see how it goes. Okay, so where this comes from, the title, the woodshed, is what old people call the practice room. Because in the old days, people would, you wouldn't practice in the house because it was annoying. And so they would send you out to the woodshed, legend has it, and you'd practice in there. Or the garage, whatever. You would go off and find a place to practice. Well, that's where I'm in an off room in the office. The kids are in bed. And the idea here is back in college, or even when I'm at high school or middle school, what I do a lot of the time, I'm practicing, during classes or between classes, somebody will come up to me and ask me a question. So that's kind of how I see this. This is a way for you to ask questions. You can, if you have something that comes up, if there's information you want, you can let me know. I'm going to practice. You can watch me practice if you want. If you have any questions, just post it in the chat. I'm going to put the chat on real quick. I don't see a chat. Let's see. Oh, here we go. So that's kind of how I see this. This is, well, that's great. I don't know how the lighting would look. That's not too bad. Okay, so I'm just going to practice. You can watch me practice if you want. There we go. Like I said, leave comments, whatever. What I really got to do is oil these valves. It's important to oil your valves, everybody. That'll be lesson 1. If anybody's tuning in. Now, this trumpet I have is awfully fussy. Often I always use Alcas, like everybody uses. But lately, this thing was sticking really bad, and I tried using Yamaha synthetic, which seemed to work better, but I don't know. This middle valve it sticks on me a lot. Unless I have a habit of turning the trumpet to the side. My finger starts coming across it sideways. That's obnoxious. Hey, thanks. You too. You bet. All right. We're oiled up. You should have seen me in my other shirt. Tell me how that volume is, huh? So I'm practicing. I just grabbed one of my books. This is a book that, this was my high school. He was a high school, I think he was a band director. I took lessons in high school from him. His name was Roger Luters. And he gave me this as a kind of a parting gift. And this is, I think I'm getting that right. This is the Peach. Is that backwards? Oh, shoot. Look at that. No. Whatever. So this is the Peach, 22 virtuosity studies for trumpet. I'm just going to run this down. Kind of show you how I practice this. I'm going to practice. If you have questions, comments, shoot it in the comment box. Let me know. This morning about your air, right? Coming through. Thanks. So your air, I'm working on starting these phrases. Last video I talked about starting with a sigh, so you're relaxed. So you don't hold anything back. You just and you let it go. Very nice. So, before I start practicing, I usually do a small warm-up before I get into what I'm working on. I try to do it without doing my warm-up. It's just not, it just doesn't sound good. These are the Chickowitz flow studies. This low interval that I'm trying to. So I might break it down, go farther underneath, do some pedal tones. And then try it again. Just to really get it in there. played through it. I'm going to practice through it. Now, I watched, I think I got this idea from Eddie Lewis. He has a channel. He's a good trumpet player, composer. And this is what I think I got from it. You'll start at the end and play the last measure 10 times till you get it in your ear. After you can hear it, try playing without looking at it. So you effectively memorize the thing. And then you jump back a measure. And you try to memorize another one. There's the measure. So I think I have it memorized. I don't have it memorized. So it starts on G. Yeah. Okay, it's getting hot in here. Hang on a second. I'm going to turn the air conditioner on. Then you can tell me if that sound is incredibly annoying or not. So the last two measures, just about have it memorized. This part that's getting me. Now the reason it's so good to memorize this stuff, when you're memorizing this music, by the way, if you're watching, how bad is the air conditioner? Is it really, does it mess up the sound quite a bit? When you're going through, when you memorize something, you can focus on the sound. If you're staring at the notes, you know, it's hard to do two things at once. So if you're staring at the notes and you're looking at something, trying to process what you're looking at, it's harder to pay attention to what it sounds like. So I think it's easier to hear what you're doing. You don't have to worry about what you're looking at. So there I'm thinking about the way the sound, the tuning of each of those notes, putting a little bit of an emphasis on the downbeats, like you often do in classical music. I'm working on the articulation. I want all those sound aspects to be there. One of the notes was flat. Now that that's all there, go back and measure. Almost memorized. So now it's closer to what I wanted to sound like. And since I don't have to worry about reading the music, I can focus on what it sounds like. I'll back it up a little bit. So how am I going to remember this? So that's the same thing as what we memorized before, up an octave. And then it goes into what we played before. No feedback? No questions? All right. Now back it up another measure. That's so easy, I'm going to go a little farther. And then put it all together. Quicker. So almost have that whole line memorized. Almost. going to work on a little bit of the speed, because this goes allegro guisto, which means fast. Lines memorized, and listen to what a difference. It doesn't take long to work some of this stuff up if you have focused practice technique. Compare that to an unpolished line. Now let's back it up and measure from what we memorized before. How am I going to remember that? So that's A flat. Three, two, one, 7. Okay, so we know that. What comes after that? Again, it's important to know what this sounds like. If you know what it sounds like, you can... So now I know what it sounds like, but I don't know the fingerings. So I can figure it out if I remember what it sounds like. So play it enough times that you know what it sounds like, and then figure it out without looking at it. And then work up speed. And then work it into the next section. Let's play it to B natural. That's the process I'll use to polish up a piece. Again, inspired by, is that a fly? Inspired by Eddie Lewis. He has a good YouTube channel. You should check him out. I want to hear what this sounds like with that in the background. Again, inspired by, is that a fly? That's not too bad. Sounds like you can, so now I know what it sounds like, but I don't. That's really loud. That's not too bad. I can live with that. If I can live with it, you guys can live with it. I want to hear what this sounds like. Okay. All right, let's back it up another measure. So the way I think about these, well, this one, for example, this is a scale. This is your A flat scale. But it goes to the 7 below it for a second. So it's easy to remember a section like that. It's just a scale. And then add it on. So now articulation's not quite right. It's da 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 dia, da 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 dia. That happens. Back it up another one. That was rough. So it's kind of like you might see in jazz where you're sidestepping. You play. It's the same chromatic feel, except this one is going from a G chord up to an A flat chord, and you learn to hear these things. So we memorize the bottom line, we're memorizing it backwards, and we're backing up another measure, play it enough times so you know what it sounds like. That's not the right measure. It'll help you remember it knowing what part of the scale or chord you're using. This is G major chord, starting on the third note, the B. If you just joined in, looks like a couple people did. This is just an open practice session. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm trying to make this similar to just kind of how I do it at the schools. If I'm between classes or if I'm not teaching a lesson at that hour, I'll just practice in my practice room. People come in, ask me questions. You can treat this the same way, and I'll check out the chat periodically. Otherwise, I'm going to practice and kind of comment as I go on. There goes OB. That's not right. What was it? So how long has that taken? Okay, so it took about half an hour to memorize about a line and a half, 2 lines. So how long would it take to memorize this piece and really get it down well? Well, it would take a long time. So if it takes 15 minutes a line, and this piece has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lines in it, math, it's going to take a while, right? No, I can do that. 15, 150 minutes, 165 minutes. 165 minutes divided by 60, so that's going to be about 2.5 hours. Yeah. So every 4 lines is an hour. That's 2 hours. So almost 3 hours. So think about your all-state etudes. For TMEA, if you're in high school, if you're in middle school, and you're working on music for competition, it's going to take some time, right? And be realistic. And not everybody can memorize as fast. Some people might be faster than I am, but take your time, go through and memorize this stuff. Because if you do enough repetitions to know what it sounds like, where you can remember it and play it, you're going to know the piece so much better than everybody else. And like I said before, if you're not bound by the music, by having to stare at the music, you're able to listen to what you're playing. If I'm staring at those notes, I'm not worrying about the sound quite as much. But if I'm just worrying about the sound, because it's memorized, I'm going to focus more on the downbeats, maybe bringing out the downbeats, accenting a little bit more, crescendoing, using the best sound I can. If I'm just playing the notes, you might hear some notes, they're centered, they're in tune, and some notes not. I'm not saying that reading music, I'm not saying that you can't play music well if you're reading it. It's just, you can focus better if it's memorized already. Right? So anyway, who's that? Oh, thanks. So like I said, if you're just joining in, it's just an open practice session. Feel free to comment, ask questions, whatever you got. I'm going to practice. No, that's not it. That's what it is. So, how did that go again? It goes down to a G. So it's not the scale, it goes down a half step. How did that go? Wrong line. The whole thing's slurred. For correcting high leaps. They call them interval studies. So the easiest thing you could do is play a scale, if this is what you're talking about. So take your concert B flat scale, your C scale, and I don't know if you're tonguing or slurring, but let's say you're tonguing. So there's a high leap. Didn't sound as good. So there's one octave, and let's try doing it 2 octaves. Where am I at? something simple like that and just develop it until it's coming more naturally. Oh my gosh. Gee, I feel like I should go practice my flute or something. Yeah. Yes, you should. Hold on. Hi, Diana. Yeah. Go practice your... that other person should practice their flute too. But anyway, those intervals. And, what else would I say? So a high leap, if it's a ballad... So these are slurred. You get the idea. You can adjust it. So if it's a leap from low to high, you can practice it that way. It's you don't always have to complicate, something. If you're working on, like, there's a piece. So this piece here, I guess there's not a whole lot of, there's not a high jump, but there's a really high jump in one of the state etudes they're working on, and it's something like. Goes from like an E up to a B flat. And so it's helpful. You want to know what that B flat feels like and what it sounds like. And that'll help you with your interval too. If you know the note you're sounding, I've noticed that my tongue and jaw placement becomes much too pinched. Yeah, so with your tongue and your jaw placement, explain to me what you mean by your tongue and jaw placement becomes too pinched. What do you mean by that? Because your tongue, I don't see how your jaw placement. You mean your tongue is too high? It's cutting off the sound. What do you mean by that? What becomes pinched? Or your lips are just, you're pinching that up. Let me know. But if you mean what I think, what a lot of people have trouble with is when they're trying to exert a ton of pressure, and they try to play a high note, they scrunch up everything. They flex their stomach, their chest, their throat, everything tightens up, right? And their lips tighten up, and the sound doesn't want to go through. Too high, yes. Jaw placement becomes much too pinched. Too high, yes. Well, let's say you're just pinching because you're overexerting and you're flexing the wrong muscles, let's say. Because whenever we overexert, we tend to just try too hard with everything. You want to try to keep the inside of your lip as loose as you can while you're pushing from your stomach and keeping your throat and chest fairly relaxed. Your corners are pretty firm. But as you go high, and that's the biggest problem I had and still have, is the tendency to clamp down too much with all these muscles. If you saw the other live stream I did, I was talking about, so a guy who does a good video about this is the Trumpet Professor. You can check out his channel. He talks about starting your note with a sigh and just relaxing and playing a note. So I'm not pushing, everything's completely relaxed, and your mouth, your lips sort of, they flex in sympathy with the airstream. So you're using face muscles, but you're trying to keep the inside as relaxed as you can. You're sighing, you're relaxing into the sound. So it's as effortless as it can be. And then he starts adding, you start pushing while keeping everything as relaxed as you can. I did that earlier where I'm just increasing the air, but I'm trying to keep everything else the same and relaxed as possible. The lips will move a little bit because the airstream is going to increase. Your lips have to, your muscles are going to engage a little bit. But I'm pushing that extra air, but my throat, my chest, it's as relaxed as possible. Now your tongue might jump up there though, and that's normal. You want your tongue position just like when you whistle. to whistle, the inside of your mouth has to shrink. I mean, to whistle like that, to whistle a higher note, the inside of your mouth has to shrink. And it's kind of a fun, I don't know if I did this earlier. I don't know if it really comes across on the recording. But if you ever see those people, you hear that sound? So if you open up your mouth a lot, you get a lower note. And if you close it, I don't know if you can hear that, but the pitch goes up. Just like when you whistle. If you raise your tongue, the pitch is going to go higher. Now there's more to it than that, but your lips are going to, your lips are going to move a little bit because your air changes, but the trumpet's the same way. But yeah, don't clamp down too much in the center here. I don't know, I don't move my jaw a whole lot when I play. I don't think about my jaw a whole lot. But I'll move my tongue. Alright, where was I at? So I'm trying to memorize this piece. What time is it? Let me go to my jazz etude. So this is the first etude that I'm working on. This is the Peach, number 1. I did a sight read, and then I'm just going to go down from the bottom to the top and memorize it. But how much time did I spend on that? 40 minutes? I'm going to go to a jazz etude. So this is, it's less of a jazz etude. This is a transcription book. If you haven't checked out Blue Mitchell is one of the greatest trumpet improvisers that there is. So this is sort of inspired by James Vaughn, who's on here. He asked, how do I balance practicing jazz and classical? And so I'm going to do, this is my practice session, let's say. So I did my classical, I'm going to practice some jazz. Hey, yeah, you bet. So this is Blue Mitchell. I don't think I've listened to this in a long time. And the best way to really get the style down is to listen to it, but maybe I could do that. Nah, screw it. So this is his solo on Confirmation. So this is way under tempo. I'm going to take this next one, I'm going to take it up tempo around, so this is 224. I'm going to play it faster. I'm going to show you how to use this to increase your jazz vocabulary, hopefully, and to get some material when you're learning it, when you're improvising. So there was a fantastic trumpet player. I gave him a call one time. His name is he was in Austin for a long time. He went to college, he went to college at Juilliard, then went to Texas State, and he moved to LA. What the heck is his name? I forget his name, but he gave me some advice. I'll remember it and I'll say it. But he gave me some advice. He said, I said, what did you do? He had a gorgeous sound, and his improv was just spectacular. I thought it was fantastic. He always had the best material when he was improvising. I said, what did you do? How did you? He said the thing that made the biggest difference in his improv was every single day he would memorize a 2-5-1 lick in all 12 keys. Now, if you're a jazzer out there, you know what a 2-5-1 lick is. A 2-5-1, I'll give you a little bit of explanation. The chord changes 2-5-1. If you're not familiar with jazz, this might not make any sense to you, but you would basically memorize an idea in all 12 keys. And so you would do that on day 1. On day 2, he would replay the first idea that he had memorized, and he would learn a new one. Day 3, he would play the first 2 and memorize the third one. And he would just do this every single day. That's what he told me. And I believe him because he sounded fantastic. And when I tried doing that, I all of a sudden when I'm reading through changes trying to solo, I would see the set of changes, didn't matter what key it was in. I had something that I was able to play over that chord change. It was great. The other thing that happens is if you learn a 2-5-1 lick in all 12 keys, and the way I learn it, I start at the bottom of my register. I'll just do a really simple one. So I'm going up. I'll go up a half step. All of a sudden my range is expanding. I'm playing higher and higher. I'm learning jazz vocabulary in the upper register, and so when those licks come up, I can play, or when those chord changes come up, they come up more naturally because it's part of, you have it down on your fingers. That in all 12 keys. So I just played Blue Mitchell's Confirmation. I'm going to take it up a little quicker. when you're coming up with your own vocabulary. Well, no. When you're learning jazz vocabulary, the best thing you can do, I think, is to learn a lick in all 12 keys. So the one I like is, there's a couple that stuck out to me. And I'll just take it and now learn it in all 12 keys, right? Okay, so if I'm going to learn this in all 12 keys, I want to play it enough times where I can memorize it, know what it sounds like. Okay, so I'll learn this in chunks. So I'll take the last idea. So this is an E flat major. The way I learn this is, I know my E flat major scale, and this is the 5th note. So what's the 5th note in your E flat major scale? E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat. So it starts on a B flat, it goes to G, which is the 1, 2, 3rd note in this scale, and then it goes down to the 7th note. What's the 7th note of your E flat scale? E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, D, and then it goes down to a B flat, and then C, so it goes up a step. So why is it important that I know what number it is if I'm trying to learn it and memorize it? Because remember, I'm doing it in all 12 keys. So how low does this go? Okay, so I learned it in E flat major. I know that last measure, right? 5, 3, 7, 5, up a step to the 6th. Now I'm going to do it down a half step in D. So we got played the root. Now let's go down a half step to D flat. So let's review. What was the other one? Now let's do C. Almost at the bottom of my register. Here's B. So let's go the other way. Up from E flat, let's go to E. Let's do F. F sharp. G. A flat. What is that? So A flat and C sharp were tricky. Now I'm only going to be able to do this as well as I know that scale, right? So if I'm slower on some of my scales, do you know all 12 of your scales perfect? So A flat. A flat I struggle with a little bit more. And when I'm improvising, I notice this too. When I'm improvising, when does A flat come up? That's A flat minor. Well, like in all the things you are, when I go to that A flat minor chord even, like it's tough. Not that I can't do it, it's just, it doesn't come off on, the fingers don't know what to do quite as well. It's a trickier scale for me. C sharp's that way. F sharp, I don't have that problem with F sharp major. I can improvise in F sharp pretty well, but there's A flat and D flat I need to practice more. A natural. Here's B. So we've done all 12 keys with that measure. Now let's back up a measure, just like we did with classical. We do all this is the same. Classical, jazz, you do the same stuff. Memorize it, back up a measure. Like I said, Eddie Lewis has a video, he talks about this, and I agree, check him out. Memorize it, back up a measure. So the next part went like this. Now how the heck am I going to remember that? First play it 10, 20, 30, 40 times until you know what it sounds like. You notice I changed the style, not the style, I'm not changing genres, I'm still playing jazz, but I changed the articulation, changed the feel just a little bit, make it interesting. It makes it less monotonous and boring. Plus you practice your articulation, and you hear the difference. Change the way you attack it. Change the way you change your change where you accent. That all helps, and you might as well do it now while you're getting that repetition in. Kill two birds. That was a stone with one stone. Whatever. Okay, so now I know what it sounds like. This chord change is a B. It's B flat dominant. It's a B flat dominant chord, B flat 7. For a younger player, would you recommend going about theory? Yeah, I mean that's not on the horn. Theory. I mean yes, it's helpful, but don't let it hinder you. For example, like it's good to know, and it depends how young you are. Because there's always a concept you can understand at some level. For example, just what these chord changes are is very helpful to know. And I learned a lot of theory, a lot of basic theory in high school as it pertained to jazz. So a 2-5-1 is the most basic chord progression, and theoretically I know how that works, right? So don't get bogged down by theory. What I mean is there's a lot of players who, and I'm guilty of this too, I would try to overanalyze the song at the expense of just listening to it. So let's say if I was working on a blues, the wrong way to go about it would probably be, if you're looking at a blues, the first chord change is a C7, and you think, well, a C7 means that my good notes are C, E, G, and B flat. And so when you play, you just play those notes, for instance. If you're at a very beginner level, that's one of the, I mean, it's better than nothing, but that's not a good place to start with improv. I think the best place to start with improv, you're asking about theory. Would you recommend going about theory on the horn? If I understand your question right, yeah, learn theory, but not at the expense of something more important. So you can learn theory. you can, if it's classical music, let's say, you can learn theory so you understand the song better, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to play it better for knowing the theory behind it. You might appreciate it more, but the theory is not going to make you play it better. The theory is not necessarily, it could help your improv because you're composing, right? It's good to know the theory behind it. It could help your improv, but if we're talking improv here, again, I'm not sure about the specifics of your question. Yeah, learn theory, but don't let it hinder the more important things. So if it's improv that you're talking about, the best way to go about that is to, whatever song you're trying to learn to improvise on, listen to that song a ton. Pick your favorite jazz musician and listen to them all the time, and then copy something that they do. My favorite musician was Clark Terry, and so the first thing I ever did on a B-flat blues, well, that's not true. The first thing I did, I took lessons with a saxophone player named Adam Schrader, who I think is in Los Angeles right now. And this is back in, I don't know if it's 6th grade or freshman year of high school. And he started with theory as far as this, he taught me one lick. It was a Charlie Parker idea. And he said that belongs in this key. And then when the key changes, play this idea. Which is the same as take one idea, play it in all chords. Now, you learn the theory kind of as you go, because as you learn what notes fit under what symbol, you learn what that symbol means, and you learn the context of the symbol. So the theory sort of comes as you understand what you're practicing and what you're learning more. So if you have a more specific question about that, let me know. Theory is such a general, broad thing to talk about. You could go on forever. But the best way to learn to improvise would be to listen and then copy your favorite jazz artist. Taking the B-flat blues example, my favorite jazz artist was Clark Terry, and still is one of my favorites. I heard him play. What did he do? Or something like that. It was something like that he played over a blues, and I loved that lick. So every time I played a B-flat blues, I didn't care what the right notes were. I didn't know what the right notes were. I just knew that he played that idea on a B-flat blues. And I played that every single time I played a blues. I would play that. I would start with it. I would play it in the middle. I played it all the time. And you don't need to know any theory to know that sounds good over a blues. So you end up using your ear. And there's lots of players who sounded great and didn't read music, didn't think theory, didn't think anything. They just used their ear. And that's probably the best way to do it, but you don't have to limit yourself by saying, no theory. Learn the theory, bit by bit, little by little, as you do the rest of it. So don't be afraid to learn it. Thanks for the advice, but I'm what, James Vaughn? Thank you for the advice, but you're what? I don't know what you are, but I'm just going to stare at this until I know. I'm just kidding. There's kind of a delay. I think it's I haven't timed it, but I think it's 10 seconds. So from when I talk to when I see your chat, how long is this? Whatever. All right, so anyway, I'll wait for the rest of your question. I'm going to... Oh, I'm going to bed. Okay, good night. That's great. Take care. Thanks for watching. All right, next thing. What key am I in? So now I'm in B flat, and that's what I'm playing over B flat. I'm going to play the same thing over A. And as you do this in all 12 keys, you learn to you can visualize your scales in your mind, and you really understand, like in your own head, you understand what you're playing better. So the way I'm thinking of this, I'm playing in the next key, so now I'm taking it in a different key, and I'm starting on the third note of that scale. And when I get to the 1, I go down chromatically. And then I go to the 2, the second note of the scale. And then I go da. I'm going towards the 5th, but I go to the 6th first. So 3, 2, 1, major 7, minor 7, 2, 6, 5, and then we're in the next measure. I literally think of it that way. I number my notes in my head, and that's how I'm able to translate it to every other key. So let me do this real quick. A flat, G, F sharp, F, E, E flat, D, shoot, C sharp. What's the 6th note in C sharp? It's B flat. C. D. And that's all 12 keys. How long did that take me? Not too bad. So now I should have the last 2 measures of this idea memorized. What is that again? That's right. So now let's take it down a half step to A. Because remember, it goes from A to D. Let's go to A flat. And A flat goes to D flat. And then we go to G. F sharp. What was that? So we went down, now we got to go up. And just take this through all 12 keys. That's literally how I practice. And so when I'm confronted with a 2-5-1 that I have to play on the spot, I'll take literally something I've worked out in all 12 keys, and I'll play it. Now, when I get really familiar with something, I don't always, I'll start to embellish it. Like I've played. I played that a billion times, right? So I'll start embellishing it. Maybe I leave the first note out. Or I'll change. I'll start the same way, but I'll change what I do in the next chord. Or I'll keep going up higher, or I'll change the second half of. I'll take the beginning of that idea like this. embellish it in different ways. Or I can take the second half of it. So I'm going to land on a B to play that. So I'll do something different at the beginning and bring it back around. Just work all these in, right? And it's easier to do if you're very, very familiar with whatever you've played. It's just like, it's just like anything else. If I'm really familiar with that idea, I can embellish it more. If it's a brand new idea like this, if like what I just learned, you know, what would I know how to do to embellish it? Because I'm just, you know, I just learned how to play it. Maybe I could change one note here or there, or leave out the first note. Or change the rhythm. So that's another lick that I've memorized, and I just put it on the end of it. But, you know, where do you get this material from? You can practice transcriptions like I just did, and just literally pick it out of what you just played. Even better if you pick it up from something that you listen to. Like, I was doing a jam session with a guy, he was a trombone player. And trombone players, they seem to phrase different because they're using a slide instead of buttons. Even saxophone players, they have the weirdest intervals and jumps that they put in there because they're saxophone players. They push a button and a note comes out. Or at least that's my simplistic understanding of it. But as a trumpet player, listening to what that trombone player did, he did this lick or something like it all over the place. It was a triplet, which if you check out Barry Harris, triplets are the best rhythm. Like the best. Triplets are the best rhythm. Just know that. Barry Harris said so. Barry, B-A-R-R-Y, Harris. Barry Harris. Triplets are the best. Check out Barry Harris's videos. He's fantastic. So anyway, I heard him playing this, and he did it so many times, and it sounded great. I loved it. He did it so many times, I couldn't get it out of my head. And it was something like, I couldn't forget it. And it was sort of something kind of like, anyway, what I took from it was, so in the middle of soloing, it had that da-dee-da-da-dee-da. So the rhythm had a triplet in there. Like an eighth note pickup, da-dee-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da. And he did that all over the place. And he would just do it naturally everywhere he played. And, you know, everybody who practices improv sort of has those couple of ideas that work really, really well. I like doing, or inflections that they do. I like doing 16th note triplets. And Clark Terry did that kind of stuff all the time, and I loved hearing it. So I copied his idea, and now I put it in there in my soloing. How would that go? So there's his idea. You know, I'm trying to work that into my solo because I thought it was so cool. And so you add another idea to your arsenal of jazz vocabulary, licks that you know, and so you keep embellishing the vocabulary you know, you add more vocabulary. But it's not as it's obviously not a lick that's as natural under my fingers as it was for him on the trombone. And that's the thing that I try to, as an improviser, when I'm playing solos, I'm trying to, there are certain things that just want to fly off the fingers, right? So if I'm playing, well, let me try something. I want to hear how this comes across anyway. I want to do, so I've been working on this play along, working on these changes. Well, okay, so here's Mr. PC. I don't know if it'll come across. Hang on a second. Okay, so I got a brand new piece that if I'm working on this for the first time, it's a fast piece. It's in D minor, right? So there are things that are just going to naturally come off my fingers in this key. Right? So my fingers want to already move. So another example. So you hear this a lot? It's a lick that just comes off my fingers. I don't think about it. So what I have to do as an improviser is try coming up with something that is interesting. Not that you have to avoid just what flies off your fingers, because it could, it probably sounds fine, but to broaden and stretch yourself, I think is important. So I'll try to, when I'm practicing with a track like this, I'll try to incorporate new ideas. So there's a simple scale pattern, right? How can I use that over these chords? Just play that lick. If I play it, so now I'm going to mix up the rhythm a little bit, try to get it more comfortable under the fingers. So another thing, okay, here's a simple lick that you can do. And it comes off the fingers really easy. I'm going to try to put that in the solo and make it sound natural. mixing in things that I'm trying to work in with things that just fly off the fingers, right? Like that just comes off the fingers. So if I combine that with something I know, example. Okay, so there I kind of tripped up on my fingers. I didn't like what I played, but I think it could have been okay. So why don't I try... So now that I fixed the thing that didn't work very well, why don't I try putting that in the solo? So let's put that. Oh no, let's go back. No, stop, don't. All right, here we go. So that works really good. So let's combine some ideas. Okay, so there's something else that I kind of programmed on the fingers real quick. So this idea here. Improvise. I'm just trying to work in material. If I'm actually going to improvise, I might make it more thoughtful and build a solo. Like, so let's come back to the top. outside a lot when I'm playing. You might have heard that lick before. Alright, let me stop for a second. Let me go back. Okay, so there's a little bit of I'm interested to see how this fits with the play-along track. You might have heard that lick before. Yeah, I'm going to stop for a second. Yeah, I'm going to have to watch back and see how that translates on video. So anyway, I would do a lot off the horn to learn some of these ideas. In fact, I'm kind of curious how this came off. Copy his idea, and now... Yeah, that's not clean at all. So... Aw, thanks. Huh, well, I hope you do. I'm like, hey Ryan, what's going on, man? I'm going to learn a lot from this. Maybe. I'm trying to check out how this records with this play along. It doesn't sound that great. The quality sucks. Bye, Diana. So, of all these licks, I'm just playing up and down the scale, right? Playing different scale patterns. Here's another I might do. So there's something else I might program in there. Let me practice that a little bit. So that's like a minor pentatonic. No, it's a major pentatonic, but it starts on the third of the minor scale you're playing. So here is D minor, but I'm starting on the F. So let's try putting that in there. Let's go back to, so I'm going to put the play along. It kind of works. Let's go back. So with this, so again, I'm using the play along on my, I posted this video, it's a play along track for Mr. PC. So now, so what I just practiced, taking that very simple idea that I just put together, now I'm making it work over the changes. See, now I'm too slow, I gotta speed it up. How the time's going here. See, now I'm too slow, I gotta speed it up. Why? Oh. Let's go back to the track. Thanks. Quicker. So that's in time.